Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the new Gemzobor faction of Werewoods, as well as a few teams for it. So, Werewoods end up coming in today. It is not actually associated to Mergrim Woods, it is associated to Urskea. Urskea is now capable of reaching power level 13 as of the addition of this troop. It is restricted to green and red, and has a rather underwhelming layout. It's very similar to a layout of Warren's, actually, in that it has basically the whole two-path thing and has a very long path. Not as much as the absolute longest, which I believe is still the Fang Moor, but still a very long path to get to the final battle. It actually has what is the most annoying peer faction in the entire game, which is mostly due to the troops that are available for this kingdom, or this faction. If we go over to the faction page, right over here, over to Werewoods, we have these four. The main one is all basically focused around the legend, which is Beastmaster Torben. He has a double convert, pretty standard double convert, except he does get defeated himself, kind of like that of a Divine Ishpala. But he also gets the Hunter's Mark first to enemy, so he does have a double effect, similar to how we have double bless, double enchant, and stuff like that. But the really annoying and interesting aspect about him is there's a 25% chance he will transform into a Werewoods beast, and this whole mechanic that this entire delve is running is what makes it the most annoying delve currently in the game, because every single one of these troops has a transform mechanic, and these transform mechanics will bring them all the way back to full durability. So if they have a lot higher stats than you, they are constantly going to keep going back to those really high stats, and unless you can burst them down with quick enough damage, like using the legend and pure faction to hopefully get a good enough alignment to actually get a kill, they're just going to keep healing right back up by transforming into other troops. This also makes the troop pretty useless to use outside of this delve, simply because every other double convert can constantly stay that double converting troop, whereas this troop, there's a 25% chance it'll be a completely useless troop every single time it casts, making it very, very, very situational as to when you would ever really use it, as it's too high of a liability to have a chance of just instantly not becoming the troop anymore. It also has a repeat trait for whatever reason. Its final trait actually already exists in the game. It gives 2 attack and 2 armor to all beast allies every single time it takes an extra turn. Not sure if they're going to be tweaking that, but it's we already have that trait in the game, and it'd be the first instance that we've ever had 2 of the same traits. So I'm not sure what they're going to be doing with that. Most of this effect does get wasted as well when using this troop, because you do have to keep in mind that if you are using multiple things, like let's say the pure faction for this kingdom, if you, while all of them might be beast, you would end up losing all those bonuses every single time you transform into a different beast. Every single time he ends up transforming, whatever buffs he would have gotten will be completely lost when he transforms into the other thing. It does not carry over to the transformation. And all 3 of these other troops also have transformation. The other best one probably being the Werebear, mostly because it has a bunch of explosions, a pretty standard exploring or explosion troop. Leprechaun obviously beats it out outside the faction in pretty much every single instance, but it's the mana generator for this kingdom nonetheless. It ends up enraging itself. There's 20% chance it transforms into Torburn, and as you'll see with all of these, they actually all have a transformation chance. The bird has a 15% chance and a relatively useless ability, and the last one has a 25% chance to go back to Torben and can get quite a bit of extra damage if it has a lot of red on the board, which in most situations you will be able to have, since you will be able to go and mana generate off the Torben to go and generate into red, as one of his converts is, I believe, blue to red. Yes, exactly so with that. So you will end up getting the mana off of that. But overall, really annoying beer faction due to all 4 of them having transform, which will bring them back to full stats, and not to mention you will constantly have to worry about this thing becoming not good by transforming into one of the relatively useless troops, with the Werebird probably being the most useless, the Werecat being second, then third for the well, why am I mentioning in reverse order? But Beastmaster Torben's the best. It's basically an order of this. Beastmaster Torben's the best, Werebear being second, Werecat being third, and the Werebird being pretty much 100% useless under every single category, especially outside of the delve itself. But yeah, not really a delve you'll really be messing with much. I do advise doing potions on it, though, if you do want to go get pure faction done, as it will be probably near impossible to do without potion effects. It's definitely not one that you'd want to farm, so still keep with whatever farming factions you might be doing, like City of Thieves or Mirrored Halls or whatever you might be focusing on still. Still stick with those, because Werewoods is definitely not a location you would want to actually farm out. But anyways, let's go over real quick into a few teams just to mention about the delve. this is a green-red restriction, so do be mindful of that. However, of course, you are allowed to use any hero weapon in the entire game when doing these delves. So, of course, that doesn't have to be green or red when you end up choosing it. So one thing that you can end up doing is just building a Rowanne quick kill team. Mountain Crusher, Rowanne, Double Leprechaun. And of course, you can replace this out for higher options as you get deeper into the delves. The main higher option, of course, being to go and replace into Urskia's Shield and replace Urskia's Shield off the top of Mountain Crusher. Also, if you have the higher options, you can also start replacing your backline troops with things that are stronger, like, for example, replacing out the final slot with a Possessed King, or end up putting another damage there just to synergize with your Rowanne. So, basic premise, though, is that you just feed Rowanne, get her mana, give her armor buffs if you want to go and scale it up higher with her Urskia's Shield, and you can just run that through the entirety of the delve. There's not a single one it wouldn't be able to work for. You'd probably switch to Urskia's Shield around 80 to 100, depending on what your stats are, and then just go from there for the rest of the delve. Other than that, next one that we have up is the more or so instant kill kind of version. Since we have access to green and reds, we can use some of the really high damage source red options that exist. So Mountain Crusher Leprechaun, pretty standard mana accumulation method that is available for this faction. You can end up synergizing this with Zugoff, which has the highest mana cost in the game, but it has a bunch of instant kills that you can do off of its ability while creating skulls while also doing freeze. You would want your hero in this instance ideally to be Titan. You could try leveling something else, but for the later delves, you are going to want to have some tank ability, and of course Titan gains barrier every single round, so you'd be able to constantly keep it barriered up so you don't die as easily, and you'll have freeze, so they won't even be able to get more than one instance of damage, most likely onto you anyways. And in worst comes to worst, it does gain extra stats every single time you end up matching skulls, and with Impervious that will make it decently tanky. And Ubistet here is mostly just to use yellow, pick up all the yellow, and to claim some instant kills. You can easily bring them into hit range, given that you're probably using this to upscale anyways. For higher level delves, you're going to have a really high amount of attack on the enemy, and that'll be able to boost ratio his kill threshold. And then ideally, you'll be able to clean up double kills and basically do a double kill with Zugoff with a skull poke, and then another double kill off of Ubistet, and ideally get some pretty quick kills off of that double combo. Other than that, for pure faction for this faction, there are not too many options, mostly because you have to keep in mind that whatever you choose, your team will be completely different by the time you reach the final battle. As we mentioned, there are quite a few battles, I believe 5 total, in order to reach the to fully complete out the delve. And within those battles, you're going to constantly be using troops that have a % chance to transform into troops that aren't what they currently are. So you'll be doing this constantly, transforming into things that aren't your starting team. And by the time you get to your final battle, your team will be completely different. And for that reason, you want to have as many Beastmasters as you can, as you ideally want to have at least one of them for the final battle. And I would say just to start with a Werebear up front, just because it can tank a little bit better than the Legend, and it also has mana accumulation, and hopefully it won't end up transforming into Torburn, and you can just use it as a mana accumulation method initially. Since it has a pretty good explosion, you'll likely have enchant and stuff to be able to get it up even quicker, and just use it as your primary mana accumulation for all of your Torbins, and then just use your Torbins as your damage option and complete out the delve. But yes, it is easily going to be one of the, well, maybe not easily, but it's going to be among one of the hardest, if not the hardest, pure factions to do. Obviously, I have not tried level 500 pure faction yet. We will be doing that this weekend, and we'll be, of course, streaming the whole entire progress throughout this weekend. But it does look like, based on the premise of everything, that it will end up being one of the most annoying. So it is considered worth it to, if you are actually trying for level 500 pure factions, to invest some gems into it. Of course, I would only do it if you have about 10,000 plus gems on reserve, but it would cost about 2,000 to 3,000 gems to complete it out, but it might be considered worth it. It's also going to be end up giving you another Urska pet if you end up doing that, and I believe we do actually need that, because I believe we only have one really viable Urska pet at the moment. I should forget. Let me double check. Do we need direly another level 20 pet? Somewhat. This one, some people might have. It was added, I believe, 1 year ago, so not like the most newest of pets, but I'm still pretty sure most people haven't ended up getting that max. The Erskine you might have, because this was one of the few that did come out when all the pets initially came out, but nonetheless, you'd be able to get another level 20 pet simply just by doing the kingdom or the faction as well. But anyways, that's pretty much everything with this faction that you really need to know. Overall, it's just one that you'd kind of do just for the sake of doing it and to get pure faction done and then never touch it again. It is one of those kind of factions just because it's really annoying and none of the troops are going to be particularly viable. The Legend could theoretically be, but the chance of him transforming is going to be too high of a liability to likely ever bother bringing it out. Of course, as I mentioned, it's a green-red, and it comes with a +2 red, +1 green, -1 blue. Haven't tested too many with this yet, but that is a relatively good banner. Red has a lot of damage options, and greens have a lot of support options, and in combination, those do make for some pretty good teams. So there's probably something pretty broken for it out there that will be able to utilize the new banner as well. But anyways, guys, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and best of luck with the new faction. I will see all of you later, and goodbye, everyone.